But Manchester City in the final 10 games of the season, we're hearing the atmosphere now, slowly building up, really. The final 10 games of the season is always crunch time. We know what Man City is capable of the last few seasons in the final 10 games. Last season, they got 25 points. Season before, I believe it was 21 or somewhere around that. Take me into the mentality of the player, particularly if you're still in the Champions League, you're still in the FA Cup, you're in multiple competitions. What is it like dealing with that pressure at the end of the season?
That's where Pep Guardiola is so good. He's been here even before Manchester City, done it at previous clubs. He's used to managing his squad, he's used to managing games, looking at every game individually. He'll know what players, you can't say injuries aren't going to happen, but he's been there before, and that's why his record's so good. He's so much experience, and that'll be the slight difference between him and Mikel Arteta, the experience they have. So I'm expecting, Pep's called this a cup final today. He's going to have plenty of them before now and the end of the season.
Is every game going to feel like a cup final from here on out?
Well, I think what the best managers in world football do is they prioritise and chunk the games down, and they'll take every game individually leading in and try and focus the players game by game situation. Listen, both sets of players will know the importance of this game without a doubt today, and the importance of a victory.
Yeah, and you talk about their experience as well. Coming into tonight, Arsenal technically has had the better form, better defence, better offensively as well, but City's got the experience.
Yeah.
But you think Arsenal now, with what happened last season, they would have learned something from that?
Well, it's a year on, isn't it? There's been that experience of falling apart last season. But for me, this is the stage of the season where City just become a different machine.
Yeah.
And I think for Arsenal, they'll know that. They'll be scarred a little bit by what happened last season, but I think obviously they're a different animal themselves this year. The additions of Declan Rice, as I said, Saliba and Gabriel forming that massive partnership at the back. I think that they're a different team as well, so it makes for a fascinating game.
Because that's the difference, isn't it? Because this fixture last season, it was Rob Holding in that defence.
Yeah,
you mentioned Saliba.
Yeah.
His combination with Gabriel, they started together the most times, defensive centre-back combination this Premier League season. That's going to play a role. And in the twice that City's faced, or rather Erling Haaland's faced William Saliba, we're going to look at some of their moments here then, Francis. Erling Haaland, 0 shots whenever he played against William Saliba. Saliba's already got a chokehold on him.
I mean, you've got to be careful judging the previous 2 games. I think obviously one of the games is the Charity Shield, which I think now doesn't have the same stature in England. It's sort of used as the last pre-season friendly before teams like City and Arsenal get going. So I think we're talking about one game. Clearly he's kept him quiet in this game, but I'd like to have more games to judge it on. He's an absolute goal machine in the Haaland, so let's see if Saliba can keep him quiet today.
Well, Stuart, Erling Haaland's going to want revenge, isn't it, against William Saliba today?
There's no doubt. I think everyone looks to Haaland to drive the goals, get the goals to win his team. He's the one who's firing the goals last season. He's done exactly the same this year. He's missed good chances this year, which is unlike him.
He's shaky by his own standards, not shaky by any other striker's standards.
Exactly that. He set his standards that high. But I think it's very difficult for him to play at the front of Manchester City. He's up there alone a lot of the time. Defences play very deep. There's not a lot of room for him to run in behind. And against Arsenal today, you've got 2 good defenders with physical prowess. Also Declan Rice potentially, or Jorginho, prowling in front of him as well. Not a lot of room for him.
Is it all about stopping that supply to Erling Haaland today for Arsenal?
Well, I remember being in this stadium, Manchester City Arsenal last year, and they were dropping balls into Haaland. He was receiving, setting back to De Bruyne, and the attacks would start from there. So if you can stop that supply line today and stop him getting a foothold, setting it back and playing from there, it will play a big part in Arsenal keeping a clean sheet.